The movie begins with a dramatic scene. Eddie Morra, played by Bradley Cooper, is standing on the roof of his expensive penthouse apartment. He looks scared and upset. Someone is trying to break into his apartment below. Eddie is crying and looks like he is thinking about jumping off the roof. Then the story goes back to 3 months earlier. At that time, Eddie is a struggling writer living in New York City. He wants to be a successful author, but he has a serious problem. He cannot write anything. He has writer's block, and his book deadline is getting closer every day. On top of that, his girlfriend Lindy has just broken up with him, which makes him feel even worse and more hopeless. One day, Eddie runs into Vernon Gant, who is the brother of Eddie's ex-wife, Melissa. Vernon is a drug dealer and lives a dangerous life. He tells Eddie about a special pill called NZT-48. Vernon claims this drug can unlock the full power of the human brain. He says most people only use about 20% of their brain, but NZT lets you use 100%. At first, Eddie does not believe him, but Vernon keeps talking and convinces Eddie to try it. Eddie finally agrees and takes the pill when he gets home. As soon as the drug starts working, Eddie realizes something amazing is happening. His mind becomes incredibly sharp. He can think faster, remember everything, and see connections he never noticed before. Outside his apartment, he talks to his landlord's young wife, who is studying law. Eddie instantly remembers a law book he once saw her holding years ago. Using his new brain power, he helps her write 50 pages of her school report in one sitting. Eddie then goes inside his apartment and starts writing his book. In just one night, he finishes 90 pages. His publisher is thrilled with his sudden progress. However, Eddie notices something strange. Even though he was very productive, he barely remembers what happened while he was on the drug. Vernon later tells Eddie that if he wants more NZT-48, he has to do small errands for him first. Eddie agrees because he now depends on the drug to feel smart and successful. After completing one errand, Eddie goes back to Vernon's apartment. When he arrives, he finds Vernon dead, shot. The apartment has been completely searched and destroyed. Shocked and scared, Eddie quickly looks around before the police arrive. He finds Vernon's hidden supply of NZT-48 pills, a small amount of cash, and a notebook filled with names and addresses. Eddie takes these items and leaves, knowing his life is about to change in a very dangerous way. Using NZT-48, Eddie quickly finishes his book. His publisher is very happy, but Eddie feels this is only the beginning. He believes the drug can help him do much bigger things than writing. With his super sharp mind, Eddie starts to study the stock market. He notices patterns that normal people cannot see. Using this skill, he begins making smart trades and is able to multiply his money very fast, sometimes making 4 times more in just one day. Wanting to get rich even faster, Eddie borrows $100,000 from a dangerous Russian gangster named Gennady. Eddie knows this is risky, but he trusts NZT to help him win. He goes to a fast-paced trading place and, in only a few days, turns that $100,000 into $2 million. His success starts getting attention from the media. At the same time, Eddie notices a strange man wearing a tan coat who seems to be following him everywhere. This makes Eddie nervous. During this period of success, Eddie also fixes his broken relationship with Lindy, and they start dating again. Because of his fast rise and smart thinking, Eddie is invited to meet Carl Van Loon, a very powerful and wealthy businessman. Van Loon wants Eddie's help with a big business merger involving another man named Hank Atwood. Before the meeting, Eddie spends the whole day taking NZT, drinking alcohol, and partying. Later, he wakes up in a hotel room next to a blonde woman he does not remember meeting. He becomes scared because he has no memory of the entire day. He leaves the hotel quickly, and once again, the man in the tan coat follows him. The next day, Eddie meets Van Loon without having taken NZT or even preparing for the meeting. As they talk, Eddie suddenly realizes that Hank Atwood may also be using NZT because his success happened too quickly to be normal. At that exact moment, a news report comes on saying the woman Eddie was with the night before has been found murdered. This shocks and scares Eddie. Eddie starts feeling sick more often, with headaches, nausea, and weakness. He goes to talk to Melissa, his ex-wife, who used NZT in the past. She warns him that quitting NZT suddenly is very dangerous and causes terrible side effects. She explains that the drug must be stopped slowly. Even though Melissa quit 2 years ago, the drug has left her slow, tired, and unmotivated. When Eddie returns home, Gennady shows up and attacks him. Gennady steals Eddie's last NZT pill and demands his money soon. Desperate, Eddie calls Lindy and tells her he hid extra NZT pills at her apartment. He asks her to bring them to him. While she is on her way, the man in the tan coat follows her. Eddie convinces Lindy to take one NZT pill herself. With her mind enhanced, she is able to fight back, injure the man, and escape. Even though she gives Eddie the pills, she becomes afraid of what Eddie is turning into and leaves him again. Eddie then carefully lowers how much NZT he takes so he does not lose his memory completely. He keeps making money and becomes even richer. He hires bodyguards to protect himself and pays a laboratory to try to copy NZT and make a safer version. Gennady learns more about the drug and starts blackmailing Eddie to get it for himself. Eddie helps Carl Van Loon with the business merger, and Van Loon promises Eddie $40 million if the deal succeeds. At the same time, the police begin to suspect Eddie in the murder case. Eddie hires a very expensive and skilled lawyer named Morris Brandt to protect him. Fearing for his life, Eddie buys a highly secure penthouse apartment and turns it into a safe place where he can hide and stay protected. On the day the big business deal is supposed to be signed, something unexpected happens. Hank Atwood does not show up. Instead, his wife arrives and tells everyone that Atwood has fallen into a coma. Even so, she says that Atwood still wants the merger to move forward. As Eddie and Carl Van Loon walk her back to her car, Eddie looks closely at the driver. He realizes the driver is the same mysterious man in the tan coat who has been following him. At that moment, Eddie understands the truth. Atwood was trying to steal Eddie's supply of NZT for himself. Later, Eddie is asked to stand in a police lineup because of the murder case. His lawyer, Brandt, holds Eddie's special jacket during the lineup. The witness does not recognize Eddie, so the police let him go. Eddie feels relieved at first, but soon after, he checks his jacket and realizes something is wrong. His hidden supply of NZT is gone. When Eddie later sees Brandt on TV acting as Atwood's lawyer, he realizes that Brandt secretly stole the NZT from his coat. Back in his high-security apartment, Eddie begins to suffer badly from NZT withdrawal. He becomes weak, confused, and sick. Suddenly, Gennady and his men try to break into the apartment, looking for more NZT. Eddie feels trapped and hopeless. He even thinks about jumping from the building to end his pain, just like in the opening scene of the movie. Then he remembers there might be one last NZT pill left. Eddie searches desperately and finds the pill just as the Russian gangsters break inside. But before he can take it, the pill slips from his hand and falls down a drain. Gennady then shocks Eddie by showing that he no longer needs pills. He injects NZT directly into his blood with a syringe and explains that he has started a business selling the drug. Using his last bit of strength, Eddie attacks Gennady and kills him with a kitchen knife. Eddie is now desperate for NZT, but there are no pills left. In a horrible but necessary move, he drinks Gennady's blood, which still contains NZT. This works, and Eddie's sharp mind returns. One of the Russian henchmen comes back and finds Eddie and Gennady's body. Eddie uses a syringe needle to blind the man's eyes. Then, using his enhanced intelligence and his ability to speak Russian, Eddie tricks the blinded man into killing his own partner. After that, Eddie kills the last henchman as well. Later, Eddie learns that Atwood has died. Eddie then finds the man in the tan coat and explains how Brandt betrayed everyone. Together, they confront Brandt and recover Eddie's stolen supply of NZT from Brandt's home. With his drug back and his enemies gone, Eddie survives the chaos he created. 1 year later, Eddie's life looks completely different. He is still very wealthy. His book has been successfully published, and he is now running for the United States Senate. He appears confident, powerful, and fully in control of his future. Carl Van Loon comes to visit Eddie, at first acting like a friendly supporter. However, he soon reveals his true reason for coming. Van Loon has secretly bought the company that originally created NZT and has shut down the lab Eddie hired to recreate it. Van Loon offers Eddie an unlimited supply of NZT in exchange for political favors that would help him stay out of legal trouble. Instead of being shocked, Eddie calmly turns the tables. He reveals that he has been several steps ahead all along. Eddie explains that he hired multiple laboratories, not just one, to study NZT. More importantly, He has successfully weaned himself off the drug while keeping his enhanced intelligence permanently. Eddie also shows how powerful his mind has become by diagnosing Van Loon with a terminal heart condition, revealing that Van Loon does not have much time left to live. Eddie then politely escorts Van Loon to his car, making it clear that he no longer needs him or the drug. In the final scene, Eddie meets Lindy at a Chinese restaurant. When the waiter arrives, Eddie orders his food fluently in Mandarin. Lindy stares at him in amazement. Noticing her reaction, Eddie simply asks, "What?" The movie then ends as the credits roll.